Okay, so imagine you're online, right? Maybe quickly looking up some complex health symptom or, I don't know, a tricky legal question. More and more, the info you find, well, it could be generated by AI. So today on the deep dive, our mission is to really unpack a critical piece of guidance. It's from a source called AI-generated content, a disclaimer for users. And it's not just some dry warning. The real question for you today is, what do these kinds of disclaimers actually mean for how you understand and trust the stuff you see online every day?
Yeah, that's a really powerful setup because, understanding these nuances, it's way more than just being informed, isn't it? It's really about empowering you, the listener, to be a truly discerning user of content. Especially now, I mean, AI tools are weaving themselves deeper into our digital lives. We're going to dive into those crucial distinctions, the things that help you separate genuinely reliable information from, well, confident sounding but ultimately unverified AI output.
Right. And that brings us straight to the core of this source, AI-generated content, a disclaimer for users. It makes this immediate kind of striking point. It says that even when content is generated using AI with human input, with some general validation, it just cannot be understood as expert opinion. What really struck me was the specific mention of sensitive areas, medical advice, legal advice. Why those fields? Why such a strong, explicit warning there?
That's a really crucial distinction to make. The key insight here, it isn't just, that AI can mess up or make mistakes. It's that even when it sounds incredibly authoritative, it fundamentally lacks, well, it lacks the human capacity for nuanced judgment and ethical accountability, that personal understanding that really defines true expertise. Think about it this way. AI models, they basically predict the next most likely word based on patterns they've seen in massive data sets. They're not thinking like a human does. They're not assessing your unique medical history or interpreting the specific context of a legal case with like human empathy and responsibility. They can even confidently hallucinate, basically make up facts or cases that just don't exist.
Wow. So it's definitely not a shortcut to getting actual professional advice, no matter how smart it sounds. But you mentioned human input and general validation. That brings up an interesting point from the source material. If a human is involved, why isn't that enough? Why doesn't that make it expert opinion? Can you maybe give us a quick example? Like, what's the difference between that sort of quality control check and real expert certification?
Yeah, that's a fundamental question, actually. So, this validation the source talks about, it's typically not about a human expert certifying the advice itself. It's usually more like proofreading, checking for grammar mistakes, making sure the AI stayed on topic, maybe catching really obvious factual blunders.
Oh,
It's human input on quality control, like you said, not a human seal of expert approval for sensitive guidance. See, when a real expert certifies content, they're putting their reputation, maybe their license, their personal judgment on the line.
right.
AI as it stands today just can't do that. It gives you a synthesis, maybe a helpful starting point sometimes, but not a definitive, accountable answer you should bet the farm on.
That makes perfect sense.
Hmm.
And the source really hammers this home. It says, quote, you always need to validate this information and cross-reference with your sources.
Hmm.
And that doesn't sound like just a suggestion.
Mhm.
It's presented as like a non-negotiable step. It really puts the onus back on the user, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And this really underscores a core principle of, let's call it information literacy for the digital age. It doesn't matter how sophisticated the AI gets, you
Right.
know? The ultimate responsibility for checking critical information, that stays squarely with you, the individual user.
Mm.
It's about shifting from just passively consuming content to actively engaging with it. The AI is a tool. It's not a guru, not an oracle. It reminds me of that old phrase, trust but verify. That's more vital than ever now with AI everywhere.
So, wrapping this up, the big takeaway from our deep dive today seems pretty clear. While AI tools are, yes, incredibly powerful, they're helpful for generating stuff, that usefulness doesn't automatically mean trustworthiness, especially when you're dealing with sensitive advice. Content made with AI, even if a human glanced at it, simply isn't expert opinion, particularly for those critical areas like medical or legal guidance.
Exactly. Which means your active role as a discerning user, checking things, comparing sources, it's not just good practice anymore. It's fundamental. It's basic information literacy for navigating this AI-powered world we're in. The ultimate responsibility, it really does lie with you to always, always validate and cross-reference with other credible sources.